Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
Second.
Roll call. Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes,
Cotton,
Yes.
Coach V,
Yes.
All right.
motion approved unanimously.
All right. So we're very privileged to have Dr. Jerry Odom and Miss Shirley Mills with the Columbia Tennis Association on our call today. I've been talking to Dr. Odom for months about trying to get our facilities at Park Lane and in other areas fixed up so we can have a first-class tennis facility. I think we've had some success on the lighting side of things, but we definitely have a lot of other issues to take care of. So with that said, I wanted to go ahead and invite Dr. Odom and Mrs. Mills to make their presentation and let everybody on the board hear what's going on and what kind of headway we're trying to make and what we can do to help.
Should I go ahead, Mr. Chair?
You're the man. Let's go.
Okay, thank you so much. And I wanted to, first of all, thank you and the commission for allowing me to present to you again. You may remember that I appeared before you on December 21st of 2020. And we talked about the state of Richland County tennis facilities at that point. And we focused in on Park Lane as kind of the flagship facility of the Richland County tennis facilities and the poor state of the courts and the lighting there. And Rob, you mentioned already the lighting. Matt Chrisman informs me that they will start refocusing the lighting and adding LED bulbs on May the 3rd. And so we're very happy to have that occur. When we talked about Park Lane before, we talked about several things, and I'll just mention those very briefly. We talked about financial impact, that we just, those courts are not suitable for attracting any kinds of tournaments. And I thought that I would just give you an example. You probably do not know, but the Big East tournament, tennis tournament, Big East Conference tennis tournament, has spent the last 3 to 4 days at the Casey Tennis Facility. They were looking for a good facility where they could bring their tennis teams and conduct their tournament. There were 11 men's teams, 8 women's teams, 19 total teams. If you just think about 10 players per team, a coach, assistant coach, a trainer, you've got about 250 people you're bringing to the Midlands. They're staying in hotels, motels, they're eating in restaurants. And I called the person today who brought that tournament to the Casey facilities in Lexington County. She is now the tennis director at the Camden Tennis Center. And she said not only did they host the tournament, but the tournament gave them in the neighborhood of $10,000 just to do that. So that gives you some indication of the impact that tennis facilities can have in the Midlands. And we talked about Camden, Sumter, Florence, Newberry, smaller towns in the Midlands that have fantastic facilities. And really we would like to bring Park Lane and then the other facilities up to those particular qualities. I also have learned, and I think the Richland County Recreation Commission needs to know, that in the course of developing a facilities grant to the USTA, there was asbestos discovered under the courts at Park Lane. And Park Lane, of course, is an older facility. It had a webbing put down, and there is asbestos there. So we have a health hazard as well as other things. I got a call this weekend from a lady. She said, you know, I would love to have my team play out of Park Lane, but with the cracks that are in the courts there, I just feel like I need to go somewhere else. So we really are in need of developing Park Lane. And this Recreation Commission was very sympathetic in December to our pleas. Miss Pamela Banks and I appeared at that time and talked about the facilities. And so we're back. But the message that came through to me at that time was, you know, we really would like to help you, but we don't have the funds to help you. And so, as they say, follow the money. And so if you follow the money, you next go to Richland County Council, who provides you with the funding. And to do that, after I talked to Chairman Lapine, and he pretty much directed me that way. And in thinking about it, that seemed to be the next way to go. When I was at the University of South Carolina, I developed what I felt like was an excellent relationship with Miss Shirley Mills. And Shirley was a liaison through the president's office with the legislature, with the Richland County Council, with Columbia City Council, and with neighborhood groups around the university. And I respect her so much for everybody that she knows and all the good work that she's done. And as a bonus, she is a wonderful and avid tennis player in the county. So she knows tennis very well and knows Park Lane very well. And I thought I'd just let Shirley talk a little bit about where we went after we talked to you the first time and decided that it would be worthwhile to talk to Richland County Council. So Shirley, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Chairman Lapine, commissioners, I joined Jerry in thanking you all for giving us this opportunity to come before you this evening, talk about this sport that we love so much, the sport of tennis. Jerry mentioned your sympathetic ear. We appreciate that sympathetic ear that you offered us in December and again tonight. But we are keenly aware that no matter how much you might want to do to improve tennis, you can't do anything without money. And we know that money is limited in Richland County. And so that is why Dr. Odom and I have been in communications with the leadership of the Richland County Council to ask for special help. We've talked to several members of council, including the chair and the new council member who represents District 7, where the Park Lane facility is located. We think that she is going to be very key in our endeavors. And I am just so pleased to report that we received a positive reception from these leaders. Of course, we still have a lot of work to do, and we're going to continue to work with them. And we will get other tennis advocates involved as well. But we feel like right now, Richland County Council is positioned to receive a special request from RCRC for funds to address the tennis facilities in Richland County. And we think that that request will receive favorable consideration. We may not get everything that we ask for, but we're going to ask, we would like to ask for what we actually need and just hope for the best. So we have made 2 requests of them. First of all, we would like to have a one-time allocation in this year's budget from the general fund to redo all 12 courts at the Park Lane facility. We realize that's a big ask. Jerry will give you some details on that ask, but that is what we need. Secondly, we ask them, County Council, to make a commitment for recurring dollars dedicated to the annual maintenance and upkeep of all of the tennis facilities in Richland County. And this is important because all of the facilities are really in bad shape. And you can bet that all of the county council members are going to want some resources dedicated to the facilities that are located in their districts. So a long-term strategic plan for maintenance and repairs is badly needed. We were advised by county council that it's important for RCRC to include these special requests in their budget presentation, along with strong justification. And the strong justification is going to be important, as there are going to be a lot of competition for the limited resources county council will have to allocate. But we're feeling good about the reception that we've received. So I'll turn it back over to Jerry for now so that he can talk about the specifics included in that request and the dollar amounts that we've had to attach to the request. Jerry?
Thank you very much, Shirley. Matt Chrisman was kind enough to share with me 2 written proposals that he has received. And I took those to the pro at the Camden Tennis Center. He's from North Carolina. He's worked a lot in North Carolina. And I asked him to help me evaluate those. The one that seems most appropriate and is the lower of the 2 is from Carolina Court Works. And what they are proposing to do is to scrape and clean all the courts, to fill the cracks in the courts, and then they will lay down what they call a special carpet. And this carpet will encapsulate the asbestos that's there, so that would not be a problem. They would have a light layer of sand, and then they would put down a flexible, what they call is a layer of flexible material and fiber coating, and they would put down several layers of that. This is what they call the Pro Bounce system. And to me, an incredible thing, a positive thing about this is warranted for 20 years. And so everything that they would do is for $579,550. And so we would ask Richland County Recreation Commission to put into their budget a special request for that amount, $597,550, to do all 12 courts at Park Lane. And we would ask the Recreation Commission to put in there a proposal that they would develop a strategic plan, a long-term plan for the maintenance and upkeep of their courts. So, that's really where we are, Chairman Lapine, and I am more than happy, along with Shirley, to answer any questions that we can. I would say that we have seen league participation, Columbia Tennis Association league participation at Park Lane drop to almost nothing because people are concerned about the condition of the courts, which are unsafe, the lighting, which is just not up to snuff. And so we would anticipate that if we can do this, then people would start wanting to bring their teams back to Park Lane to participate in league tennis. And I'll turn it back over to you, Chairman Lapine.
Okay, well, that's a great presentation. So essentially, the $597,500 would be an amount to fix up Park Lane and make it I guess a premier. I mean, if we get those courts like with the Pro Bounce, systems, you feel like that this will make us a premier destination. I mean, I've been actually down to the Big East tournament down at Lexington Tennis Center, and I know that they have to use their other facility as well, which I haven't been to. just to make sure they have enough courts for this tournament. But would having 12 courts like this put us in the realm of being able to host some nice junior tournaments and, maybe some revenue generating type events, in your opinion?
I think so, Rob. I will certainly pledge to you that we need now to turn our attention, and we can do this through USTA facilities grants. We need to turn our attention to Trentham Road and to St. Andrews, because these facilities, these other facilities in the Midlands have a number of courts, and you have to furnish a number of courts. You had to, I know at the Casey proposal that they presented to the Big East, I think they had to present every single court that they had, which was like 26 courts. So that's more than 12. So we need to work on other facilities, but this would be certainly a start towards that. This is a very competitive area right now to attract these tournaments, particularly USTA tournaments, to various facilities, but this would certainly be a start.
All right, well, thank you very much. And the Pro Bounce method, or that Pro Bounce system, have you ever hit on one of those before? Or have you heard some good things about that, I guess?
That is something I haven't done. The pro at tennis said he had, and he thought they were just like any other court. They were wonderful courts, and he said this Carolina Court Works is well known for their system. So one of the things that I have not had a chance to do is ask if there are any other facilities that have used this in South Carolina, and call those folks and find out what they think. But with a 20-year warranty, that's not bad.
I agree. I think anything would be good, but I think Don Zetta talked to Mrs. Mills too, as well, and like to get her thoughts real quick. Don Zetta? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Still on mute.
Yeah. I'm gonna send her a note.
You're muted, Don Zetta. There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, what was the question, Rob? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I know you talked to Mrs. Mills. I just wanted your opinion on.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. It's just we got to convince county council that it's a great idea.
Well, it sounds like we've had a good start with Dr. Odom and Ms. Mills talking to District 7. Who is the District 7 commissioner? Is that Mackey?
No, it's Gretchen Barron.
Gretchen Barron.
And Ms. Barron, yeah, she came to speak to us one time.
Yeah, Gretchen Barron is your
Okay.
representative in District 7.
Right. She spoke to
All right,
us
and
one
then-
long time ago before she ran, Rob.
And Ms. Yvonne McBride has a lot of constituents who use those facilities, and we've been in communications with her as well. And she like most people who are not familiar with tennis courts and tennis court construction, she was surprised by the price tag. But when we consider that we have a 20-year warranty on the courts, and that we're going to be addressing the asbestos, I think that we're getting a pretty fair deal, fair price. I understand that four of the courts were redone from 3 to 4 years ago, and already they are cracked up again and have to be redone. So a 20-year guarantee is a huge deal.
Well, I think we gotta just keep pounding away to get this money. Kind of appropriate that we're having this meeting tonight on the cusp of us applying for our budget. So, we definitely, I'm glad that you guys had a chance to get on tonight especially, but I didn't know if Commissioner Clark or Cotton wanted to say anything.
You all are muted. If you have something to say, you can unmute.
Yeah. I don't have any additional comments. Thanks.
And I know Thomas is
And
traveling.
dealing, yeah, I got you, but dealing with the tennis association, is there any other outside monies that we can solicit?
Chair, excuse me, Mr. Clark, we have applied for previously the USTA facilities grant, but at the top of COVID, the grant was placed on hold. I did have the opportunity to meet even with the director for the facilities along with the state USTA representative and a representative from the Columbia Association. They've actually connected us with all of the right people. It's now just waiting for those funds to be released.
Okay, sounds good. I'm with it.
And in
I
addition,
might just make a comment there if I could.
sure.
Most of the funds that the USTA uses for facilities grants comes from the US Open. They had the US Open this year, but there was no audience. So the only money they got was from television, and that just wasn't what they usually use. So they have not funded any facilities grants this year, but certainly I will be happy, and I know that the USTA office in South Carolina will be happy to work with the Richland County Recreation Commission to continue to apply for grants. And if we can get this done for Park Lane, then we can go to something like Trenholm Road or St. Andrews for facilities grants.
Oh,
Thank you,
perfect.
Odom.
And I didn't know, Lakita, do you have any
I would just like to say on behalf of the staff and the volunteers, Ms. Mills, Dr. Odom, we truly appreciate your commitment to tennis and recreation in Columbia. Without your support, it is very difficult to gain the resources that are needed in order to maintain and fix facilities. So what my commitment is to work with Chair Lapine and the remainder of the board to identify that request that you all have talked to us about tonight based off of your recognizance of talking to the other county members and figure out how the board wants me to put that request in. And I look forward to being able to work with you in not only improving this facility, but future facilities. Tennis is a true lifelong sport. And unfortunately, like many of our facilities, even with those recent renovations, there were some best practices that weren't put in place. And in order for us to get these funds, then bring these facilities up, we do have to make that commitment as a team to ensure that they are maintained, and you do have that from us. So I will work with the board over this week to figure out what that document, what that ask looks like, the best way to get it over to county council, and then provide you with a response via Mr. Lapine. Again, thank you.
Hey, Dr. Odom,
Yes.
I do have one request, not a mandate, but just a request, is if you or one of your fellow, Mrs. Mills, or if one of you all could go play tennis on one of those courts sometime in the next few months, just to double check to make sure you like it, with your expertise, I really would think that would be good. We're going to go ahead and request some money, but I hate that if there is something you don't like, I would like to know, I'm saying we can just use that money to move forward with another option, but I do know we have to encapsulate that asbestos, and I know this would be the smartest way to do it, but yet I would be penny wise and dollar foolish. I want to make sure that we do it the right way. And I love, it's like when I go play soccer, there's all different kinds of fields that I like to play soccer on, but some are better than the others. And not that it has to be the best, but I also don't want to play on one that's got a lot of, a lot of ruts and holes or whatever. But I'd love for you to just double check to make sure that you like those courts.
That's very reasonable, Rob, and I'll work towards that goal right now.
Okay. And even if it's somebody that you really trust that's played on it, that's fine too. But
Okay.
that's just a request I'd love to hear about.
Yeah, very reasonable.
We can make that happen, Chairman.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much.
Got
right,
all you
guys,
need
thank
from us,
you.
Rob?
I think for now, unless Lakita, you can think of anything else we need, I think we're good.
No, again, thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks all. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you all. Good night.
See you, Dr. Odom. See you.
Night.
Bye, Ms. Mills. All right, so next thing is, Lakita, I'll let you run with it, talk about the town of Irmo. We need to, I think there was just a slight tweak that we have to vote on.
Yes, sir. I will share with you the overview of the reason why we're doing this today. Then I understand that Vice Chair Lindsay had a concern, and I would like for Cornelia to already have the previous document up so that we can properly address that concern when it is brought to our attention. What you have before you this evening is a project agreement that is required by the state of South Carolina for any entity that does not own the property that is applying for a parks grant. It's called a PARD grant, P-A-R-D. We received this grant as a part of our development towards the Friars Gate project. The project that we're discussing now is a part of the MOA that we have with the town of Irmo, where they are requesting PARD funds in order to develop the land that we had allowed them to utilize. And because we are the owners of that property, the state of South Carolina requires us to have an additional joint agreement with their language included. And what you have before you does not change anything that was previously approved in our agreement. It is the format that is required by the state, but the content is still the same. Ms. Lindsay, I know that you had a question.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, from the beginning, this is a joint agreement with Dutch Fork Tennis Center. However, it's going to be the park. It's going to be renamed. So wouldn't the agreement be the name of the park? Which
So they're
is,
not
Wall Street
renaming.
Park?
Oh,
I'm sorry?
My apologies. They do not have the authority to rename the entire parcel. So this park is in addition to the parcel. If you look at some of the wording, it states to construct Rawls Creek Park. So it is not the Dutch Fork because there's amenities which would create the playground portion as a part of the park.
So we make an agreement with the park, but with the tennis center, however, it's still going to be Rawls Creek Park, correct?
It's going to still be Dutch Fork facility, and the Rawls Creek Park will be located at the Dutch Fork facility. We will not be changing the name. This is an addition. The amenities that they are adding is creating a park and playground.
So you didn't need to include Rawls Creek Park and Dutch
No,
Fork
ma'am.
Tennis Center?
No, ma'am.
That makes sense to me, Lakita, that you've got a master tenant, if you will, which is Dutch Fork Tennis Center. And within that tennis center, there'll be a new park that's formed called Rawls Creek Park.
Yes.
Okay, the terms of the lease, you put the start date in, but you did not put the end date in. And are we going to be providing funds for this park? I mean, it's not
No,
really clear. Are they going to be charging fees, or are we going to get any money from this?
No,
lease?
ma'am. No, ma'am. We are not. The original
Okay,
lease that was established did not provide for any funding to exchange hands.
Okay, when we previously discussed this, I know I specifically asked who would be paying the insurance, the liability insurance. And at that time, I thought it was said that the tennis court, Dutch Fork Tennis Center, or whatever you want to call it, Rawls Creek Park, would be paying the liability. But on this new agreement, it states that RCRC will be paying the liability. Is that not right? On number 5, RCRC agrees to maintain liability insurance coverage on Rawls Creek Park for the life of this agreement, which is 20 years.
Yes, ma'am. We have to, as a special purpose district, have insurance for any tenant. that's utilizing our facilities. So I would like to go back to the previous document that was approved by the board, which specifically talks to liability insurance. Cornelia?
And how much is it? How much will it be a year? Because I know
Which is cheap.
I brought up the question about dogs will bite and dogs will fight. And I can see us being sued at some point with the dogs. I mean, that's a serious situation. You can't control all dogs.
Well, Ms. Lindsley, it's not an off leash. All the dogs will be required to still remain on leash in most of the areas. With dog park best practices, we will work with the community to ensure, but my experiences in building, operating, and evaluating dog parks, I've never had that issue occur. Not saying that it cannot happen, but dog owners are very mindful from my experiences and their demographic to ensure that the rules are going to be followed at the facility. But I'll be more than happy to bring back the rules as things start to develop more on the facility. I'll be more than happy to keep the board abreast so that you will not feel that there are things occurring that you're not aware of as still being the owner of the property.
But we still need to know the liability insurance, the
Yes,
cost
ma'am.
of it, and where is this extra money coming from?
There is no additional money. We have liability insurance on all of our facilities. The facility that you are referring to has maintained and will continue to maintain liability insurance. Cornelia, can you go back to the previous agreement which speaks specifically to liability insurance? And you're muted.
Yeah, because it doesn't say that on number 5.
You're
It just
muted.
says RCRC agrees. It doesn't say anything about both.
Go on, you're muted.
Okay, the first agreement, which was approved on November 16th, 2020, the intergovernmental agreement, number 6, public liability insurance. It says in the contract, each of the parties shall procure and maintain in force public liability insurance in the amount of maximum liability under the laws of the state of South Carolina. Now, the joint use agreement says RCRC agrees to maintain, which it does not negate the very first intergovernmental agreement where it says both parties will have the insurance. Does that make sense?
So shouldn't it say both parties?
For the park grant, the state, this is a state formatted document, Ms. Lindsay. And so for them, the concern is specifically on the owner of the property when it comes to this agreement. However, we still have the enforceability of the agreement that we have directly with the town. And if they do not maintain their liability insurance, that will negate the agreement with us and them.
Okay, we were never provided a copy of this PARS grant. At
Yeah,
least I didn't receive it.
we did this PARS grant over a year
Get
ago.
a copy of it?
In November. Cornelia can go back and look at the document. Well, the park grant just came through. That's why we're discussing it today. The grant cannot be submitted to the state without the information that we're requesting from you tonight. However, I do have a copy of the grant that I have reviewed with the mayor, and it is in line with all of the things that they stated that they would do in the agreement. But I'll be more than happy to provide the board with a copy of the grant. And they have confirmed, the town of Irmo, that they do have the cash on hand to move the projects forward.
So how much is the insurance going to cost us a year?
I don't have that number before me, but it's the same insurance that we have always maintained. It will not increase or decrease our budget.
Well, I would think with a legal document, you would want to put the amount in. And also you're talking about 20 years. You should put a
That's a big
start
deal.
date and an ending date. I know you were supposed to put the start date, but you didn't put an ending date, which is 20 years from now.
In the original agreement that we have with the town, the time frame is listed in there. This particular document is specific to the grant. So no, ma'am, it does not reflect the same things that are when it comes to our relationship directly and use. This is specifically for the grant funds to develop the park.
Am I
So
correct in
the
assuming
grant has to
that
be
our,
20 years? The grant has to be 20 years?
The grant doesn't have to be 20 years. It's stating that we will maintain that insurance for that facility and or any relationships during that time frame of 20 years. But the grant has to be done within the next year. Those funds have to be expended within a year.
Lakita,
Commissioner-
am I
yeah.
correct in assuming that the the insurance is an insurance that covers all of our properties
Yes, sir.
up to a certain amount. So there is actually no money that's being expended because it is a general insurance and this property would still be covered under it.
Yes, sir. And there will be additional documentations that I will bring to the board before making any major decisions with this project. This is just one step at a time. So I needed to bring this. And then as we come forth through this part grant, you will receive updates on what's happening with this and our relationship with the town of Irmo.
I like it.
But I'm in recommendation that the board, excuse me, approves the agreement so that Chair Lapine can sign. And I would like to share, based off of our CFO, she has informed me that our total cost for all properties is $260,000 for our liability insurances for all properties. Thank you, Brandy. So
I
Chair
have-
Lapine, that concludes me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's
Mhm.
Lisa. So I do have a question though. So if the town is also gonna maintain liability insurance, I am a little confused as to why it's not written under under number 5 like the other agreements that the town and RCRC. I don't know why would not be included on number 5 as well.
I could reach out to the state, Ms. Cotton. This wasn't a document that we developed. This was a document that is a part of the grant packet. So
Mhm.
I'll see if there is an opportunity for us to make that revision, if that is the wish of the board.
Yeah, I was just, it is kind of concerning because every other provision kind of binds both of us. And then number 5 is just like, we are kind of like hanging out there. I understand we're gonna maintain it anyway, but it would be nice if the document, included them under
Yes, ma'am.
that as well. That's the only question I had about it.
I have no problem in making that request back to the mayor to find out how could we do this? Because as I shared with you, it came from a part of the state packet, but I have no problem doing that.
I have one other question. Should we put in a statement, something about if one of the parties cancel, that they have to give us a 30-day or 60-day notice? Should that not be in the contract also?
It is already in the previous contract. We're speaking of two different documents. The first document does have that approval. But if you would like to add that into that one, I can make that request as well.
I think you should. Thank you.
All right, so as a matter of, I guess we can't vote on this because we don't have the form now, right?
Well, I mean, you can make the vote with the requested changes that have been identified by the board. You can do that, and I can make those changes, and if those changes aren't made, then it can't be executed.
Perfect. So the two, what was Donzetta's last request?
To include a clause the same clause that's included in the original agreement for the discontinuance of the agreement.
Perfect, okay. All right. Can I get somebody to make a motion, please?
I make a motion to accept the proposal with the changes that we have discussed.
A second?
Second.
Roll call. Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
I still don't think you should approve it until those two items are included and do a brand new agreement.
We just said we would. Okay.
We just said that we were going to add them, the yes or no vote.
Well,
If it
you're the
doesn't-
one signing it, so, I mean, that's on you.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so vote yes or no, Donzetta.
Yes, go ahead.
All right.
Coach V,
Yes.
Cotton,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
motion approved unanimously.
Hey, for the record, Donzetta, your comment that it's on me, it's on all of us, okay? I am just an arm to sign this, so I don't appreciate that comment.
I mean, I don't think you should sign something unless it's written.
I'm not
And
gonna,
with all of the inclusions that we suggested be made, you should sign it after those are included.
that's exactly what we just voted on.
Okay, so that's all I was saying.
Okay. Next, let's go on to the budget. Before it leaves it here. All right, operating budget. 2021, 2022.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Brandy.
And by the way, Brandy, I'm very sad to read the email that I read a few minutes ago, and we will, congratulations first off on your unbelievable opportunity. We've been very blessed and privileged to have you with us, and I want to thank you for all your services.
Thank you, Commissioner Lapine. I really appreciate that. Again, that the decision to resign was a very difficult decision to make, but I do appreciate the opportunity to serve as the Chief Financial Officer for these almost 3 years. I have really appreciated the relationships that I have been able to forge with this opportunity. So without further ado, what I'm going to present to you tonight is the proposed budget for our general fund for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Just as a reminder, we are required to provide our budget to the Richland County Budget Office by Monday, May the 3rd. So it's very important that we do have action on this item tonight. What this presentation will do is provide you a highlight of some of the budget information, as well for budgeted revenues as well as budgeted expenses. And as I go through the presentation, if there's any questions that you might have, please feel free to stop me. So on this slide,
Can I ask you one question,
Certainly.
Brandy, before we start?
yes.
Just based on the conversation from the tennis facility earlier, if they make a special request for 500, say, let's say $600,000, that would be on top of, that would be something that would be outside of this budget. Would that be a correct assumption?
If we're required to request that 600,000 from the county council, I think the question that we need to make sure we understand is what particular funding is available. So is there some funding that the county council has already allocated to us? And if that is the case, then we can amend this budget to include that as well as that expenditure. As it stands right now, based upon the budget we have now, if we were to include that request without knowing if there's any additional funding from the county, we would have to reduce some of these budget items, budgeted expense items, in order to accommodate that request.
In addition, Rob, I think that it's important that we get clarification, because I was under the impression that Dr. Odom meant this current fiscal year from the notes that I have, that he meant the request need to come in as a part of a special request, but for this current fiscal year. But I'll reach out to him and get some clarification.
You did say that, so
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So what you have on the screen before you now is our budgeted revenue items for fiscal year 2022. And some of the highlights that I'd like to call to your attention is that we did receive the property tax revenue estimate from the county auditor's office. And that request includes an increase of approximately 8% on property tax revenues. As you recall, last year we did have to reduce our request by 10% based upon the county council's request. And so what we were approved for last year was approximately $14.8 million. In the estimate that we received from the auditor's office, there are two numbers that we pay attention to. The first number or estimate is a revenue number that is based upon no mill increase. And so that number does not take into account any CPI growth or any population growth. The other number is considered the cap number. And so what that number takes into account is the CPI growth as well as population growth. And so what we're requesting, the 16.1 million, is reflective of the cap number. But there's another caveat that I need to make sure that you guys understand. Based upon the information that we received from the county auditor's office, we only have that $16.1 million number is only based upon CPI growth, which is approximately 1.23%. We do not have the PPI number, which is population growth. And that has not been released by the Fiscal Affairs Office, and that is not expected to be released until late May 2021. So what does that mean for the commission? That means that once that number is received, the cap number that's calculated might increase. And so we will keep in contact with the county auditor's office to ensure that we have the correct budget estimate based upon that PPI growth. But for right now, for this request that we have to submit on Monday, the $16.1 million number is the best number that we have currently. Okay, so I said a lot. So is there any questions on that? Okay, I'm assuming not.
Hold on, I do have a question.
Certainly.
Quick one. So if population growth picks up at the end of May, are we allowed to amend the
Yes,
property tax revenue?
we should be allowed to amend our request. I think I shared with you the schedule for the budget. Please keep in mind there's 3 readings before the county council. And so between now and the final reading, we should have that number. And if we need to submit a revision, we should be able to do that. Prior to the
So
final.
that number would come into property tax revenue,
Well,
or would it come into a different line item?
that number will be used to calculate what the cap number is for property tax revenue. So yes, that would impact that property tax.
Right. All right, because I've heard that the population growth has gone up, but I guess we won't know that until May. All right, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions on that? Okay, if not, I will go through our program revenues. And what I'd like to mention to everyone is that I have included the actual results for fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020, as well as the original budget for fiscal year 2021 and the amended budget. The reason that I included those numbers is because as we reviewed the request from different division heads and department heads, we paid very close attention to our revenue estimates for program revenue. And so for our rental and recreation revenues, what we did is also look at what our averages were on those different revenue categories over the last 2 years based on actual results. So for fiscal year 2019, those actual results are essentially pre-COVID. For fiscal year 2020, those actual results includes the impact of COVID. And so for our rental revenues, we are requesting or proposing or forecasting an amount that's between $373,000 and $403,000 based upon the different budgets that we've proposed. And that is in line with the average of 2 years for that line item. Similar to recreation revenue, what's included in recreation revenue includes our revenues that we receive for our recreational classes, as well as youth camp revenue. And so similar to our rationale for rental revenue, we also looked at the average over 2 years to try to forecast or project a conservative number for those amounts. For athletic revenue, we have projected that those revenues to be slightly higher than what we have projected in the past in our budget, as well as actuals, primarily due to there are additional athletic programs that our recreation superintendent is forecasting, as well as an increase related to tournament revenue. And then finally, for special events revenue, we did include in their estimate the possibility of returning back to the tailgate at Parent Thomas. However, in this estimate, we did reduce those revenues quite below what we forecasted for 2021 in the original budget. And so we're forecasting for that particular event approximately $12,000 in revenue.
That's
So-
good.
So with that said, for under proposed budget 1 or proposed budget 2, the total program revenue are slightly below what we've actually earned in fiscal year 2019, which is again pre-COVID. Any questions on that? Okay, so if not, I'll continue on. What you have before you, I just wanted to give you guys just a history of the millage amount that's requested. We requested to the county what was approved over the last almost 10 fiscal years. And so as you'll note, in 2021, this is the request that the millage request we originally had of $16.4 million. What was ultimately approved, again, was that 10% decrease of 14.8. And that's the equivalent of 12.5 in operating millage. Again, based upon what we've received from the county auditors, our current request looks or appears to be 16 million. Now for expenditures, what this slide represents is the major difference between the proposed budget 1 and the proposed budget 2. And so the major difference between both of those budgets relates to payroll and benefits. So under proposed budget 1, for full-time employees, we are requesting that we increase employees' salaries back to pre-reduction in force levels. However, under proposed budget 1, we do not have a living adjustment. Under proposed budget 2, we are requesting again that we increase employees' salaries back to the pre-reduction in force numbers, and we would institute a 2% cost of living adjustment effective January 1st. So essentially 6 months increase. For the operations and maintenance budget line item, we have tried to, with all of our budgeted expenditures, we have tried to ensure that our requests are similar to the levels that were requested in our original budget for 2021. However, there are some line items in which we did have to increase that request. And part of that increase relates to operation and maintenance. We did have to increase certain software expenses related to our new payroll, timekeeping software. We also had to increase our request for certain lease expenditures related to our copier maintenance agreement. Under program and marketing, for our program expenses, we have reduced that about $200,000 from our original request for 2021. However, for our marketing request, we have increased that primarily due to us having to replace some of the signage at our parks to ensure that it includes the new logo that was approved last year. For our capital, we did not increase that request because we are still working on our CIP plan. And so we have requested that amount similar to what was requested last year, which is approximately $350,000. So our overall budget that we are requesting is approximately 17.7 or 17.8 million, depending upon whether budget 1 or budget 2 is approved. And so that is slightly lower than our original request last year of $18.1 million. If there are no questions, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Brandy. I just would like to say again, as I've shared with you face to face and via in the email that I sent out to the board today, that you have contributed to the overall financial success of this agency by joining this team in 2018 as one of my first leaders. While it is definitely not easy, it is expected because that's who we are. And we get to spaces, and we talked about this, we leave things better than what we left them. And you definitely left our financial department in a very good position. So I thank you. And you caught that joke, I'm pretty sure, when I said the sky's the limit. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Brandy, it was a
Thank you,
pleasure
Brandy.
meeting you
Thank
and
you.
working with you. Thank you.
She's not moving, and y'all will see her. I already told her she still got to come. Look, she got to come in some of these buildings after she's helped us establish the CIP plan and see her work come to play. But you have before you, members of the board, an operating budget that we have spent hours on going through every single line item myself, along with Brandy, along with Tamika, and including Jamie, because we felt that it's very important that we are able to tell a story of where we were, but where we're trying to go as an agency. We've taken some major hits. Staff have been impacted tremendously, and our hope is that we're able to make our staff back whole. And you have 2 budgets before you. One includes that increase, but both includes bringing us all back to where we were pre-COVID. So with that being said, I'll be quiet, and any questions that you may have, Brandy is here to answer those. And from there, hopefully, if any adjustments need to be made, we'll make those adjustments. And then the budget must go to the county by May 3rd. Am I correct, Brandy? Again, thank you.
I'd like to ask one question. What Rob was talking about is where would we include the request for the tennis?
I need clarification, Ms. Lindsay, because from what I heard Dr. Odom say was that we needed to submit a special request out of this year's current budget specifically for development of the correction or the construction of Park Lane. So I'm going to reach out to Dr. Odom for more clarification tomorrow morning. And then I'm going to reach out to those county councilmen and women that she spoke to so I can get that clarification. I'm going to bring back to you so you'll see what we take on behalf of the board, whether it's a part of this process or if it's a separate process. Either way, I will find out.
Okay, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
So, Brandy and Lakita, just talking about process, generally what happens is you said there's like 3 readings, but you'll go and they're gonna most likely ask you to cut something. They always do, right? So I think that we need to ask for what you guys have presented here and then let the chips where they fall, and we just, the important thing I think everybody has to understand is, that when you're talking to the budget committee, they have to realize that you took the whole organization took a payroll cut for 4 or 5 months, I believe, maybe 6 months, to help us meet our goals and guidelines. So for you to ask for a 2% increase for all employees for, CPI and whatnot, I think is, great. And, that's all I can say. I appreciate all the hard work you've done, Brandy. And like I said, you're going to be hard to replace, but I think the sign of a good leader and person is somebody that puts us in a position that, whoever we hire should be able to step in your footsteps and move on and keep us rolling. So to me, that's a great thing. And I know that you're moving on to a new gig, and we wish you the best. I wish you the best of luck again. So with that, I'll ask if there's any more questions.
Don't
Let's ask it.
leave.
If not, I need somebody to call for the question to vote on this.
Commissioner McLean, I do need to know which budget you would like to approve. Is it budget number 1 or budget number 2?
And so I'd say
That's what I was
budget-
going to ask you, why we had 2. Were we supposed to select 1 or 2?
Yes,
One.
ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brenda. Explain the differences in
The major difference between both of the budgets is one budget number 1 brings all full-time employees back to the pre-COVID levels for their salaries, but it does not include a cost of living adjustment. Budget number 2 does 2 things. It brings all employees back to pre-COVID for their salaries, as well as includes a 2% cost of living adjustment, which will be effective January 1st, 2022.
I mean, the differential, I'm doing the calculation right here, is 17,841 minus 17,743. You're talking about $198.
$100,000. Yeah, it's just
Right.
$100,000. I would be of the opinion that we ask for budget 2 to start out with. Because I think they definitely, deserve to be brought back up. But then to try to get that cost of living for staff initially, and then if we've got to come back and make adjustments, then we can move it. But I did the math, and I kind of did it in my head, which was unusual for me, but I knew it was about $100,000.
Wow.
I don't know that makes or breaks us.
Wow.
Oh, Lisa.
No, I'm just saying, I just looked at the numbers.
I'm impressed.
I am.
Now,
too, 'cause
I do have a
don't do
question.
math.
Aren't the legislators working on something where all state employees are supposed to get an increase this year? I don't know if that applied to really all of them or some of them, or that was just a proposal.
Mayor Bob had his fingers up. I don't know if he was going to answer that question. He said 2. You're still muted, Mayor Bob.
He's still on mute.
That's why he don't like messing with the Zoom sometimes, he tells me.
Can you hear me now?
Here you go, Mayor Bob.
Yes,
Oh, it's a 2% pay increase for state employees.
right.
Gilda Cobb Hunter may beat out another percent, but it's 2% right now.
Right, that's what I thought.
So it includes our employees
No.
if they
I
get it.
think all state
No, we're
employees,
not-
right?
Just,
No, it
just state
includes them.
employees.
It's not. It doesn't include our employees.
We're not state.
County.
Oh,
Not
county,
county.
yeah.
We're special purpose district. We're caught in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're bringing it to you all, because it is different. And when our team members and citizens see that 2%, there is this mindset that, oh, that includes you all. And it didn't.
It doesn't.
To bring that, because we feel that our employees should be not only bought back, but we're recommending that vote for budget 2.
Hey, let me
We're
add
gonna
one
bring the
thing.
janitors back? Will that include bringing the janitors back?
No, ma'am.
You said bringing them back?
No, ma'am.
You bring-
But several of them have, we can talk about that at a later time, but I will share with you, we
Okay.
had a couple of retirements, so we were able to bring several people back.
Good.
Mayor Bob?
I would just add that the state works on what they call the BEA estimate. Now, it's based on a lot of income tax rather than property tax that we have to live with. But the economy is doing much better than anybody thought. So I would definitely ask for more. And, if they have to trim it, I don't mean to tell you what to do in terms of policy, but if you were inclined to, there's no reason not to ask for the higher amount. And if it doesn't work out, so be it. But the economy on the state level, at least, is doing much better than than they had anticipated.
Thank you, Mayor Bob.
Yeah, I agree that I would be inclined to make that motion if nobody has any more discussion about it, or I can make the motion and then we can discuss some more.
Make the
Make the
motion.
motion.
I didn't hear.
Go ahead, Lisa,
They
make
said
that
make
motion.
the
Oh,
motion,
okay,
Lisa.
okay, all right. I make a motion that we approve budget 2 for fiscal year 2021, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Okay, who was that second? Did we have 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Give it to Clark.
Roll call, Lapine. Lapine,
Yes, yes, yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Coach V,
Yes, ma'am.
Cotton,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
motion approved unanimously.
Can I make one comment?
Of course.
Can I make one comment before we leave?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I just want to thank Stephen for bringing his friend to the meeting last Monday. That's the first time I've heard someone really speak from their heart in a long time, and he was very impressive.
You did a great job. Thank
Oh,
you,
yeah.
Donzetta.
He did. Yes.
Well said, Donzetta. That's good.
Thank you.
All right, with that said, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. And I guess, are we good until, I guess it's gonna be May, third week in May, right?
Yes, sir. Memorial Day is the last weekend.
Yes, and then I'll be sending each commissioner a text regarding some stuff individually, and if you have any questions, just give me a call.
So you
Thank
need a
you.
motion for adjournment?
I
All right,
make a
thank
motion to
you.
adjourn.
A second.
Roll call, Lapine, Lindsay,
Yes.
Coach V. Coach V gone already?
Going already.
Cotton,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
motion approved unanimously. Good night, y'all.